Sebastian Gorka is a well-known Trump sycophant, and he has a brilliant theory here as to why the left opposes Trump. Watch.
A large part of why he was elected, Boris, let me add, it's also a large part of why the left hates him, isn't it?
Oh, sure, of course.
Because it's that the alpha male. I said, it's the left hated it when I tweeted out first week in the White House. The alpha males are back. They can't stand that. In an age where masculinity is deemed to be toxic, in an age where they say sex and gender is a function of choice. It's fluid. Yes, fluid.
You're a man or woman, whatever.
Then when you see a 6'2" guy stand up there for 2 hours every day and bat the idiot questions away from the so-called journalist, that is the opposite of everything they want America to believe, isn't it?
We're having fun here. We're chatting. And I remember during the campaign, I've thought about this. If you think about just in your life who the biggest Trump haters are that you know, it's not really the cool kids. Let's be honest.
It's not the manly men. It's
both men and women, right? It's not the people who are truly secure in themselves.
No.
The men and women I know who support the president know who they are.
Right.
They for sure know what
and they're the kind of guys and gals you want to hang out with. They're the kind of guys you'd want to co-host a podcast with, right? Am I right?
What's the point of having these kinds of conversations? I mean that seriously. Like, what's the point of that? If you want to figure out why somebody thinks like they do, ask them. Ask them. They'll tell you. They'll give you an honest assessment of why they feel the way they feel and why they believe the things they believe. But they don't want to do it like the whole... And it's technically part of the industry I'm in. I got a microphone. I'm doing a show here. But there's this thing that happens where you just get in the habit of strawmanning everybody who doesn't agree with you. And let me tell you what you believe and why you believe it. It's like, just ask him if you want to be honest and if you want to be open and if you want to be a serious person. But he doesn't want to do that. He's in the business of playing for a team. And, his team is the pro-Trump team. So now everybody who's not in agreement with me, everybody who's not pro-Trump, it's just because they're against the alpha males. That's why. They're betas. And he's an alpha, and the betas don't like the alpha, and so they're triggered by the alpha. That's it. They're just not alphas themselves. That's why. As if Sebastian Gorka is an alpha. As if the doughboy he's talking to, Boris Epstein or whatever his name is, as if that dude's an alpha. As if Trump is an alpha. Listen, and Joe Rogan made this point a while ago, but here you have a guy who, obviously he's in his 70s and he has to dye his hair on the regular. He goes through great pains to cover the balding areas on his head, and he has to do his hair in the very unique Trumpian way that tries to hide it. He's a guy who either does tanning or I don't know what's going on there, either it's tanning or foundation or whatever the case is. But caring this much about your appearance, if you're a dude, is not something typically associated with being alpha and being super masculine. The whole idea of being an alpha and being super masculine is supposed to be it's a grizzled dude, he hasn't shaved in a couple weeks, and he's got dirt under his fingernails because he's been working with tools and fixing cars, and, that's typically the idea of an alpha male. Trump is not that. He's a little doughboy up there. So what are you saying? The idea that he's this embodiment of all that is masculine. No, and the reason they say that is probably because of how combative he is with the press. But there's two ways of viewing that. Yes, you could view that trait as somewhat alpha, or you could view it as him being a little catty bitch, like a little, like a high schooler who always feels slighted by people. He cares way too much about what people think of him, so he's always trying to control the perception of him that other people have. That's one of the things that hits me about Trump, is that he really he never got past the high school phase of feeling these strong feelings of inadequacy. So he's always trying to make up for it. And he's always trying to badger people who don't already respect him and like him and view him positively. It strikes me as a very childish thing, not an alpha male. An alpha male probably actually genuinely doesn't care what, anybody thinks about them or says about them. And Trump obviously cares deeply about that stuff. But, I mean, just put that aside. Even if I grant you, let's say I grant you, okay, Trump's an alpha. Why does it have to be the case that the only reason people don't like him, or one of the main reasons people don't like him, is because they're not alphas? If you ask me why I don't like him, I'll tell you it has everything to do with policy. Everything to do with policy. Why don't I like him? Because he increased our wars. That's why I don't like him. He said he was going to get us out of the wars, and then he increased the wars. We're bombing 7 or 8 different countries right now. He increased drone strikes 432%. That's why I don't like him. I don't like him because he's warmongering with Iran. I don't think that's masculine. I think that's criminal. I don't think that's alpha. I think he's just doing the bidding of the neocon deep state, which is pretty beta. Fall in line behind, guys like John Bolton and Gina Haspel to do their bidding. That's not alpha. But constantly warmongering with Iran and, I could go on and on with all the policies that he's pursued that I think are terrible, like the destroying of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, doing the bidding of Wall Street and deregulating them further. Doing the tax cuts where 83% of the benefits went to the top 1%. These are the things that I'm against. The reason I oppose Trump is because of policy. He signed a bill. This is never talked about. As far as I know, I'm the only one that brings this up. And that's not, overreaching or hyperbole on my part. But he signed a bill that was literally the most unpopular bill I've ever seen in my life covering politics. It was a bill that guts your internet privacy rights, and it was either 6% or 9% favorability that it polled. Nobody was in favor of it. And he signed the bill. Why? Because he's doing the bidding of the industry. That's why. So this is why I don't like him. And if you listen, am I saying there's nobody who doesn't like Trump for stupid reasons? Of course not. I talk about those people all the time. I think the hashtag resistance liberals who are against Trump, the reason they're against Trump is because of all of the things that don't matter. Like the fact that he seemingly talks with no filter, the fact that he's not professional. Like this is why people who are the resistance liberals generally and genuinely hate Trump's Trumpiness. Hate, the fact that he doesn't have any civility or decorum. So I think those people are silly. I think they're absurd. But that's certainly not the case that everybody who's against Trump is against Trump for those dumb reasons. Talk to almost anybody on the left, and they will give you hardcore policy reasons why they do not like Trump. How he ran as an establishment outsider, and he's doing the exact opposite. He's serving the establishment at every turn. So, but in order to have these conversations, you have to be willing to have these conversations. You have to be serious. You can't go out there and view your job as I'm just going to talk trash about everybody who doesn't already agree with me and accuse the people who don't support Trump of not being alphas. As if everybody who supports Trump is an alpha too. Seriously? I mean, listen, I've seen the cameras. I've seen the people that go to those rallies. There's been many interviews done where people have conversations with. Emma Vigeland did this famously for Rebel Headquarters, TYT. They go to the rallies and they just ask these pro-Trump people questions. You want to say there's some alphas who support Trump? Sure. I'm sure there's some alphas who support absolutely every candidate, but there's also a lot of people who do not fit any definition of alpha. So it's just this obsession. Funny enough, they accuse the left of being you guys are so emotional and you're all about your feelings. That entire back and forth was them all up in their feelings. It's all about how I feel about this certain thing emotionally. It's never substantive. So he's let me tell you how I feel about how great we are and how bad they are and how Trump's an alpha and everybody who supports Trump is an alpha and everybody else who's against him, it's just because they're betas. It's just because they're betas. Who watches this and is convinced by it and likes it? I mean, it really is amazing to me that there's a market for this stuff. But apparently there is. So have fun in your protective little safe space where you don't engage any interesting, unique ideas, and it's all just a circle jerk of, hearing what you already agree with. Wow.